I'm Neil Christensen, author of Dark White, and welcome back to my sporadic series, I'm reading House of Leaves, so you don't have to. Today, we're covering Chapter 4. Chapter 4 is where we really start to delve into the strange nature of the house on Ash Tree Lane. It starts out by telling us that in early June of 1990, the Navidsons went on a trip to Seattle to go to a wedding. They were gone from the house for several days, and when they returned, something had happened. The house had changed. It was unclear the nature of the change at first, but they could feel it. They felt as though someone had been there. Something had happened. They felt intruded upon. None of this was backed up by the footage of the high-8 cameras spread around the house on motion detectors. They recorded no entrance or exit of any other person in the space. The footage shows the family leaving the house and then instantaneously returning to the house with no footage in between. Zimpano describes the changes as enormous, but not obvious. The horror, he says, was atypical. It disturbed Karen and Will to their core. But the children seemed completely unaffected by it, running through the house and playing as if nothing had happened. We later find that the main thrust of this change is the appearance of a walk-through closet of sorts. A short passage between the master bedroom and the kids' bedroom. While the physical space for this closet, as we're going to call it, appears to have been there the whole time, according to blueprints that were obtained in the following days by the Navidsons, there had never been any doors leading into this space. This is confirmed by going back and looking at the old footage from the high-8 cameras of the children's room and the master bedroom, which shows the wall, solid and with no door in it. But now there is a door that connects the master bedroom to this space, and then another connecting the space to the kids' bedroom. The Navidsons do call the police and file a police report, but the cops don't seem terribly interested. But Will does become obsessed with the appearance of these doors, and then later, the space itself. As he's researching the appearance of this new space, he quickly discovers that the measurements from the blueprints and from his own physical measurements of the space inside the house somehow exceed the width of the house on the outside by a 1/4 inch. So the inside of the house is a 1/4 inch wider than the outside is. This troubles Will Navidson to the point of obsession. He starts measuring this way, that way, pulling taut tapes and running cords, pulling them taut and measuring those. Marking the cords. He even drills holes in the walls of the house so that he can run one continuous line of cord, taut from one end of the inside of the house to the other end, mark it and measure. None of this solves the problem. Eventually, after all his efforts prove fruitless, he does something unthinkable. He contacts his brother. As he puts it, Tom builds houses for a living. The chapter then dives in a bit to the estranged nature of the relationship between Will and his brother Tom. Karen ultimately says that their estrangement is pinned on a bit of rivalry. She says that Will is successful and Tom, as she puts it, is not. However, this project that they work on together seems to be enough to build a bridge back between the two brothers and create some kind of brotherly dynamic that they're both comfortable with. Meanwhile, as they work on the project of trying to eliminate this mysterious extra 1/4 inch, Karen busies herself building a bookshelf. It's a mundane task that takes her mind off the unsettling events and nature of the house. It appears to be like an IKEA kind of thing that is just out of a kit and built from pieces. The thing that becomes important later is that this is an open-sided bookshelf, and it's placed in the bedroom in a corner against 2 walls. This is demonstrated in the text through a story that while she's filling the bookshelf, at some point, as has happened to all of us, one of the books begins to fall over and they all domino over, falling one after one after one along the shelf until it reaches the end of the bookshelf where it's stopped when the last book hits the wall. Will and Tom ultimately are unable to account for this mysterious 1/4 inch, even using Tom's more professional tools. So they decide to go and visit a friend of Will's who is a professor of engineering at a university. This friend tells them that it is certainly a matter of them using either bad tools, or bad measurement technique, and he will provide them with even more delicate and precise scientific equipment to do the measurements. He assures them that this will, in fact, eliminate their problem. These specialized tools do seem to do the trick, as after setting them up and running the measurements, the mysterious quarter-inch does indeed vanish. However, they feel the need to measure again because the doors between the master bedroom and the children's room keep shutting themselves. It's at this point that Will asks Tom to prop the doors open. Tom reaches over to the bookshelf and grabs a large book off of it in order to prop the door open. This causes another cascade of books tipping over domino style, until as the last book reaches the end of the bookshelf, it falls from the shelf to the floor in a newly created space between the end of the bookshelf and the wall. This causes Karen to scream. This is a long chapter at 16 pages. It includes not one, but two separate footnotes from Johnny that exceed 3 pages each. In the first footnote, Johnny goes into excruciating detail about how interacting with the manuscript from Zampano's chest has started to affect him physically in the real world. He does this through a long story about an incident that happened to him at the tattoo shop that he works at as a receptionist. He describes how he's been having bouts of dizziness, nausea, and hallucinations. In the second footnote, he mentions how frustrating Zampano's writing style can be, how it's dense and sometimes incomprehensible, and oftentimes flat out untrue. And he gives the reader permission to skip anything that they find unpleasant or frustrating. All in all, Chapter 4 is a good chapter. It's interesting, a little mysterious, a little unsettling, and spooky. It gives great information about our characters, a little bit of backstory, and expands the world of this spooky house. I enjoyed this chapter. I thought it was an easy chapter to read, which is not something I can say about the next chapter coming up. We'll talk about the torture that is Chapter 5 next time. If you're enjoying I'm Reading House of Leaves so you don't have to, make sure to follow for new episodes and like it so other people can find it too.